Yeah, we've still got all that excitement and energy. Yeah, and especially because we spent 2 days, we're going to spend 3 days watching other teams play playoff hockey, right? Really exciting to watch, and you get going even watching those games. So this is the payoff for having some regular season success, but for teams, the older teams, more veteran teams, this is what it's all about.
Oh, you said a couple weeks ago that Matthew Tkachuk's availability would depend on when these games got scheduled, and it seems like they did you a favor with the Tuesday start. Is Matthew Tkachuk ready to go?
He's got to get through the morning skate tomorrow. We're still monitoring the recovery off the practice. So he was out early before we went through whole practice, stayed till the end. So we'll see how he feels coming back in tomorrow, and if he feels good, then he gets through that morning skate and everybody thumbs up, then he'll go. If there's we're close enough now that you also put yourself in that situation where you'd consider 2 more days if you felt you were right there. And so we'll just let the doctors and Matthew tell us where he's at, and then we'll go from there.
Just seeing him, though, on the second line and first power play unit, though, is there an anticipation that you're expecting that doctor's clearance? Or
Yeah, well, we had run, if you go back and look at the last 5 games, at a different time I was running versions of all these lines with the idea that if Matthew doesn't play, I know exactly who's going into that hole. We've already run that before, and the lines that it changes beneath will look exactly like a line we ran in the game that we liked. So we've got a flow chart for how we'll handle this.
Coach, we know how much Bob does to get ready for every game. We know we've seen the strides he's made. What did you learn about him the last 2 playoffs, about how his preparation helps him for those deep runs that you guys did make and hopefully going to be able to do again this year?
Yeah, it's just incredible. It seems like incredibly emotionally consistent, whether wins or losses, or for a guy that's as routine as he is, he easily then switches into playoff mode where the routine doesn't matter at all anymore. Whether it's an 8:30 game or a 1 o'clock game, it doesn't affect him at all. He's handled all these situations over the years so many times that he's got a program for every potential change. But he was emotionally just very consistent. You know, he had a great game or was the star of the game. He didn't change his prep the next day. If we had a tough one in front of him, didn't change him. He compartmentalizes exceptionally well on handling his day.
There's been some kind of narrative on TV about how
There's the first lesson in life. Turn it off.
There's been some kind of narrative about the end of the season looking like you guys are limping into the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you have to say about that, and versus how you actually played?
It's true. If you play 9 games in 15 days on 3 sets of back-to-backs, you're going to get a little banged up and you're not going to have much gas at all. So we had actually built that into our mindset, and I'm talking about staff and decisions that we would make, how hard we would run players, how many minutes they would play, some things like that, knowing that we had to manage the year here this year. And it had nothing to do with last season or how much we played. Our fitness numbers at camp were right on, so that wasn't an issue. We just knew that I think we had 20 of our last 44 games were on the front end of the back end of back-to-back, so we had to manage it.
How have you seen Anton Lundell grow over the course of the last 3 years? Obviously, he's still young. He's become a bigger and bigger contributor. Just for a guy so young and still so early in his career, how has he become so important so fast?
I just completely forget how young he is, and it kind of hits me in the face. He's 23. He's a veteran now. He drives his own line. So he will get better, and he will as a player learn personal things that affect him. How he trains, how he eats, all those things, and over time he'll move them. But there's not as much for him to learn about the game anymore. He's played so many meaningful playoff games. I think he was a healthy scratch in the season prior to us going to the final and losing. He wasn't in the lineup every night, and then we're halfway through that year, and we're still working on some, not so much basics, but standards of play, which is true of young players. They kind of come in and out of games, right? They'll get 2 or 3 good shifts, and then where I think he took the biggest jump forward, the big inflection point from him was we got into the playoffs that first 2 years ago, and we would get ahead in the games, and the other team, especially when we were on the road, they would run their best line against him. And he had this incredible mentor on the right wing, right? Sam Reinhart had a major impact. So he's had 2 great mentors. Sam Reinhart and Sasha Barkov are very similar in that they make the right best play they can every time. There's no cheat. There's no hope. If it's supposed to put the puck deep, the puck goes deep. They're not trying to fit something in or make something. So great mentors. He can sit on the bench and watch Barkov's decision making. He can sit on the bench and talk to Sam Reinhart and play with him. So that's for me where he went from understanding how important everybody is on a team, that yeah, you're in the 30 hole and you're 21 or 22 years old, and yeah, you got lots of time on the clock in terms of your career, but what you do this shift changes our fortunes, and he has an understanding of how important everything is. And now, if you to watch practice today, you couldn't probably have picked out the number 1 line. Those guys were driving pretty good today.
We've talked a little bit about your guys being able to flip the switch, but you guys have not played a game in a week. Some people talk a little bit about rust or whatever, but with 300 games or whatever played that you guys have gone the last 3 years, has this week been beneficial?
Yeah,
just to kind of
sure.
shut her down for a minute?
I'm not arguing with you, George, but we completely stay out of the idea of flipping a switch. I think it may have looked like that, and I'll go back to our schedule. We didn't have a lot of drive there in the last, not so much the last week, last couple of weeks. We had sometimes 8 players out of our lineup, so we didn't look as forceful. But other than that block, and we knew that when we looked at the schedule at the start of the year, it was going to be tough. The only other block that I would say that if you watched our team play, you could say, yeah, they're waiting to flip the switch, was the 3rd week of November, but we were just coming off that Finland trip, and we were behind it. Other than that, we attempt to play as hard as we can every night, and it is a physical game, and it's an aggressive game. So we don't, like at the coaching staff, and I'm saying more importantly, the players in the room don't accept soft games from themselves because they think we'll just turn it on down the road. That has nothing to do with the way we play. When you have the schedule that we had and the players out of our, you're just going to look different. It just can't look the same. So there's more D-zone coverage time, and then you get a little fatigued, and then you're not quite as sharp with the puck offensively. But we're not looking to flip a switch. Which would make you worry about your team if you're good for the first 10 minutes of the first game, and then after that you're not. That's usually the sign of a team got all jacked up for the first game, went out flying, and then there's nothing left after that.
As we get ready for the playoffs, how much more valuable is a guy like Nico Sturm, not just for the face-off, the penalty kill, but just given the fact he did play the Lightning in the final a couple of years ago and has that experience against these guys?
All of the playoff hockey is different, and that idea for young players come in and play in their first playoff game like Mackey will, and you look at some other teams that have youthful teams, that playoff experience and understanding the change in emotions, the need for recovery, all of the things that go into longer runs that has to be learned. I'm sure there are teams that have, Vegas missed the playoffs and then won the Stanley Cup, but that was an injury-based thing. That wasn't a lack of experience, and they learned that having veteran players at this time of year is critically important. I also find that as they age, it becomes more precious to them. They start to understand how hard it is to get there. I remember Gary Roberts won the Stanley Cup his first year and thought, oh, we're going to win 10 of these, right? And then it never happened. So the guys that have been around a little bit know that to allow themselves to get very excited for it, to appreciate it, to commit to it fully, because you don't know when your next chance is. Okay.
Florida Panther legend.